Do you have any sort of... Are you somebody who likes rituals? Are you into any rituals? Because I know you're an avid tea drinker.
Yeah,
Things they really...
I always wear something blue on an airplane.
Sounds like, is it Rambo who said
It's a
something
weird
about the
one. It's a
blue
weird
light?
one, that one, but yeah. So I figured, that's all right. It's easy to do.
Okay, and are you somebody, because you're saying I was a spiritual fan, are you somebody who is spiritual at all?
I can be. Yeah, I'm quite interested in all that sort of thing. I write lyrics, so I'm interested in most things. That are interesting, really.
But
it is interesting. I don't follow it as a religion, no.
But this like inner voices or things like that. Are you somebody who sort of, trusts in inner voices, or are you rational?
Yeah, I think the inner voice is definitely something that's there. It is a bit irrational, but that's cool.
Your interest for the Dark Ages and chivalry and knights, and how did that all start? Sort of the passion for that.
Well, we're called Saxons, so it's a bit of a start with it.
But I know about
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I sort of try to link the name of the band to some of the songs sometimes. Although it's a different period. The Saxon period and for instance, the Crusader period's different. But I'm interested in history, and I like the way it goes with heavy metal, heavy rock. It's really, I think there's different bands do different things. Some bands just write rock and roll lyrics, other bands write, quite sort of mystical prog metal, and we seem to go, with the historic thing quite well. It seems to suit us quite well.
I was just wondering more about how sort of like as a young boy, how did somebody give you a book, or how did you sort of get actually even like the first contact with that kind of subject?
I think as a boy, you're interested in all that soldiers, the knights in armor. I think as young boys you get interested in that, and I think youngsters these days are doing the same, but on video games. They're doing exactly the same as I used to do with the tin soldiers on the table, with knights and everything really. I mean, when I was a boy, the Second World War had finished 6, 7, 8 years before, so that was very interesting for me as well. So the soldiers and the things, so I think at an early age, in my generation, especially with boys, you were sort of into the heraldic history of Europe, basically.
Talking of kids that sort of play with video games, I mean, one thing that's really sort of modern at the moment is the Pokemon Go. Do you think it's sad that kids, like, because you said you were playing with tin soldiers, that people are or kids are playing in a virtual world rather than like when we were kids we used to go outside. Do you think that's a sad development?
Yeah, I think the Pokemon Go thing, it's like all these big fads, isn't it? I mean, there's always a doll, there's always a toy, there's always a game that suits the world. I mean, Rubik cubes were the same. Everybody had one. It's just one of those things. I think it'll wear off after a while.
I hope so.
There'll probably be one on stage with us tonight.
Possibly.
I think it's a fad. I mean, I'm not going to do it myself because I think it's a waste of time. But I can understand why people do it. I mean, it gets under your skin. It's like a bug, isn't it? You want to find the next one. It's quite interesting. It's quite
addictive, I think.
The next stage, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, with like memories, because I think about that a lot. Because I talked to this one musician once, and he said, "I don't have anything like that. I don't look at it. I don't sort of, indulge in the past." And I kind of admired it because I thought, I like the way he's such a free spirit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think the two can work together. If you have a family of your own, or if you have a very close family, then memories are very important, and especially in rock and roll, you tend to find that because you're on the road a lot and everything's a bit superficial, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The dressing room, and I think it's good to have memories and a base, especially for a band like us. We've been together a long time, so you have to have something else, you know what I mean? You have to have a place or a space, so I don't actually agree with that, what the guy said. I think he's wrong.
Okay. No, I mean, it's just people have different opinions about that.
Yeah, they do. People have different lifestyles.
Absolutely. But I know what you mean, because I think for him, his band is everything. It is his family. He doesn't have anything outside of that.
Yeah, well, that's good as well.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot more to to rock and roll than, the gig and alcohol.
Talking about gig and alcohol, I heard this anecdote which I thought was quite nice and funny and a bit saucy as well. When you went to the States for the very, very first time, you sort of got introduced into the real rock and roll lifestyle and met some groupies.
We did.
So tell me about that, because they were quite dominant, the American groupies at the time. And maybe you could tell me about like the first sort of crazy things that you experienced there, because you were quite, I mean, like greenhorn-wise, I think.
Well, we were sort of English, and obviously there was lots of sort of girls at shows in England, but they weren't quite as outrageously forward as the American girls were. I mean, they were like, we were like really shocked.
You were quite, how young were you?
I wasn't that young. I was like 20, 20s basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were quite shocked of the, just the whole promiscuous of it. Just the whole, really out front, like, yeah, I want to sleep with you and let's do. It was like crazy, really crazy, and it was great actually.
Yeah, they took you back to the hotel,
it's what
right?
all bands want to do, So,
at least at the beginning,
end of the day, that's
maybe...
what you get into it for.
Girls and
original, the fame and the women and all the rest of it. But it was good fun. But it was crazy because they dressed really wild as well, with ripped clothes and ripped.
And then you ripped them all off as well.
Suspenders and really tiny mini skirts and, really, more rock and roll than the bands really. So it was, and of course they're all really gorgeous as well.
Wow,
They're all sort of between.
What more can
I was
you have?
about between 18 and 21, something like that.
Quite liberated. I mean,
Very liberated.
Unbelievable.
I'm sure their parents didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Probably not.
Yeah.
And then Motorhead and Girls' School lived in a house together, and you went to see them now and then. And so
We
it was
did used to go and see them, yeah.
Colourful life as well.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Do you have any
crazy.
anecdotes?
It was like a public boarding. It was like a boarding school, but absolutely wild.
So in that sense, memories are good, because I mean that was a memory as well. But I thought it sounded really funny, because it sounded you were like really sort of naive and came to this crazy American world and all this sort of things.
It was just like that. It was just like that. I mean, we'd stop the bus. We'd stop the bus in a truck stop, and we'd go in and have hash browns or something, and the waitress would come over, and she'd say, "Are you guys in a band?" We go, "Yeah." "Oh, where are you from?" "England." "Oh, I've always wanted to see a tour bus." So we go, "Do you want to see the tour bus?" So that's how it used to be.
Happened. That was
That's
the
how it
code
used
word.
to be. Yeah.
Ah.
That's how it used to be.
Okay.
And I wasn't married, single, so
Of course. Sounds like a great time.
it was crazy. It was the MTV years, wasn't it? So
Yes.
everybody was really sort of famous.
Yes, I think,
These
but they have
days.
to sort of nowadays. I was talking to one band once, and I said, "Is it still sex, drugs, and rock and roll? How do you feel about it?" And he said, "The problem is that nowadays everybody films everything. So, if you have a girlfriend at home, you can't do any of that because it's
Yeah,
be
there
on
is
YouTube
that. You have to be
or-
careful.